Hi, I'm Sharissa Seeger, and this is my Unit 4 reflection video. My first course outcome that I'm going to reflect on is the first one, use a variety of strategies to solve problems. Um, I do feel like I'm pretty good at using different strategies. I think my toughest part is starting the problem. So that's with any strategy. I just kind of have a tough time figuring out where to begin. Um, but still not with draw a diagram, which still is my strong suit. I feel like if that is the strategy that jumps into my head, then I know exactly where to start. But everything else I kind of struggle with. Um, but there are some problems where I am able to use multiple strategies. Um, which I feel like is part of the course outcome. Specifically with chapter 10, number 21, it's the stealing the castle treasure. Um, the chapter was create a physical representation. And so I did do like the physical representation and actually moved the pieces like up from the castle and down. Um, and then I was able to record it. But so there was one strategy, and then also I drew a picture as well. So I thought I was actually pretty good with figuring out how to switch it from physical representation to drawing a picture, so then I could actually show my classmates how I actually did it. Um, there was another one, it was the 9 points problem. It was chapter 9, number 2. Um, and it was, I think it was the solve an easier related problem. And so I was using that strategy, but I also drew a picture because that's how I was able to keep track of my thoughts and the easier problems that I was solving. Um, so I think I'm doing pretty well with the first outcome. So again, use a variety of strategies to solve problems. Um, because I've been pretty good at being able to use each strategy that's new to the chapter. I think my biggest struggle is where to get started because once I'm started, I know where to go and I can use that strategy to my benefit. Um, but yeah, so I think I just need to work on that just a little bit and try to not always jump to drawing a diagram because that's always my go to, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I think I need to try to master the other strategies before I keep continuing the draw diagram one. All right, so my second course outcome that I'm going to reflect on is number 2, which is organize information to show understanding and help solve problems. Um, I think I'm okay at this one, but I could use some work. Um, so my example is in chapter 11, number 5. It's the lesson Pursuit of Peanuts. I think overall, I do a really good job of separating my what we know and what we want to know, um, which that's here. So it's specific what we know and what we want to know. And then I do a pretty good job of um, keeping my work separate. So like here's my picture and then is more work and with answers. And I clearly show where my answers are with arrows. Um, I think my toughest problem with this, organizing my information, is there's a lot going on here, and I feel like I could label it and explain it a little bit better. But I think that's where the technology and our discussion boards come in, where I don't necessarily have to have everything on my piece of paper. I can include it in my discussion board post, so I can explain things further. Um, but as far as what's on my paper, I have it pretty good in blocks so people can kind of follow my thought process. So I go from here to here to here to here. Um, but then as far as what's on the paper, I think I do a pretty good job of explaining it further and explaining my thought process and where I got these numbers and how they fit in here and then what I did next. Um, but since we are using pictures, I think I could somehow condense this or redo it in a way. And I think that's my problem is I did it already, so I don't want to do it again to make it cleaner, I guess. Um, so I think that's definitely something I could work on where um, I could organize my information um, more so for my classmates rather than just for me, because this is my work, but then I can explain it on another sheet of paper if that makes sense. Third outcome that I'm going to reflect on is number 5, and it's work collaboratively and critique each other's work. Um, my example for this one is from discussion board number 1. It was the obstacle course problem, and it was one that I was peer reviewing. So I did it first, and then I went and like looked at everyone's solutions I had already posted. And there was one, Casey Parker. She added up all the fractions and then did the problem, where instead you're actually supposed to take each fraction that's given and go step by step by step, and you'll get different numbers throughout. Um, so I kind of explained to her, said, like, your work makes total sense and it's very clear, and like she did a great job of explaining what she did. But I said, I think the problem is actually supposed to be read like this, and so I kind of tried to explain why, that I kind of thought she was like thinking of the problem a little incorrectly. Um, and then explain my thought process and where I went from there. So I think I do well with working collaboratively and critiquing each other's work. I think sometimes though it's hard because a lot of people do it very similarly to me. So then it's hard to like critique it and say I don't see anything wrong with it type of thing. Um, or with some things where it's like I don't know who's right or who's wrong. Um, and maybe that's my mistake, and I need to make sure I look at the answers before if they're available at that time. Um, but I don't know. I think I'm not necessarily afraid to say that someone or to point out that there is a different way to look at the problem, whether it be incorrect or not. So like the case with Casey, I could be totally wrong, but I still put my critique out there, and hopefully it was able to help her see the problem differently and maybe realize that it was wrong, um, or that I was wrong and we could have a discussion about it. And that's the point of these discussion boards. Um, and so I don't think I really have a problem there. I think as far as like working together, I think I could reach out a little more when I'm struggling with a problem. I tend to just stay to myself and um, talk amongst my family and friends to see if they could help me. But I think I should reach out a little bit more because people might be having the same problems as I'm having with these specific problems. So I should comment on like the open discussion boards and see if anyone else is having those issues and see if like maybe we could help each other out rather than keeping it to myself, because I could actually help someone out or they could help me out. So I think working collaboratively I could use a little bit of work on, especially since as a teacher you work with a lot of people and you work collaboratively as far as lesson plans and trips and different things, different activities. So it's important to be able to discuss things with your peers and your colleagues eventually.